count on you every play tonight. Okay? And then come out and have fun. The gates are locked. Ain't nobody getting out now. They can't run. The gates are locked. Let's bring the fight to them, guys. Yes, sir. Hey, brother. Let's pray.
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the bEast from the East Show, Week 10. It's Mr. NETSN, Brett Swinney, alongside of me, my normal compadre on the show, Mr. Red Zone OT, K.O. Kyle Owens. Kyle, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. Busy week last week. Had a lot going on and a lot coming up this week, man. NETSN right now is just, we've got things all over the place right now. It's just we got football season about to wrap up over the next few weeks. We have playoffs coming up. We got some volleyball on. They're wrapping up. About to start playoffs. We got basketball. The round ball is about to start. I'm pumped for that. Like just a ton of stuff going on, and I'm all in for it.
Yeah, it was a busy week for me last week too, with the whole Westwood situation that popped off last week and covering all that. So definitely a busy week, and it's only going to get busier because, like you said, you got volleyball playoffs that are starting. Football playoffs are about to start. We still got some things to settle in these final 2 weeks, but football playoffs are about to start. Basketball is getting started up with a humongous matchup on Saturday, I believe, that will be right here on NETSN.
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest games in the area for this early in the season. You've got the defending state champs, the Martins Mill Lady Mustangs, coming into Brook Hill's Gymnasium, Harrington Gymnasium, to take on the Brook Hill Lady Guard, coached by one of our own, Coach Jeremy Hubbard. Hopefully we'll have him on the show with us at some point before basketball gets rolling, or maybe at the beginning of the season. But a lot of expectations over there for both the Lady Lady Guard and the Guard basketball team. A lot of talent returning, and so excited to have them only on NETSN this season. We'll be covering the Brookhill Guard, and we'll have some other teams as well. But we will be doing a lot of coverage of them this season, and should be a lot of fun. There's a lot of games, a lot of teams early. Just to name off a few teams they're playing early, they've got Brownsboro. Of course, we just mentioned Martins Mill. They got Tenaha. They're playing Bullard, Pittsburgh, and one other team. Just making the schedule a minute ago, but we got lots of games. Haven't got them all up yet. The links will be coming up shortly over the next few weeks. But man, a lot of hoops, and you know what that means, Kyle. That CM Corey Marshall guy may start showing up here. Because round ball season is
maybe
he might. But though, Kyle, that means you get to come back into the booth and have some fun with me here in the next few weeks when you have some spare time. I'm excited to do some hoops. We had a lot of fun last season. You were my Tuesday night guy a lot last season. Seemed like that's going to be the case again this season, hopefully. And so we're going to have a lot of fun covering the Guard basketball program this year.
I wish I had a T in my name somewhere so we could make it like a little pun, but there's nothing with a Tuesday that with Kyle. Whatever. We'll figure something out. But
Mr. Tuesday night, I don't know.
I'm excited though. I do enjoy what I'm doing, covering games now and writing stories and keeping stats and all that. But my first love is calling games, and it's always a pleasure to get back in the booth. So I cannot wait for basketball season. I haven't called a football game in over 2 years because of my new job. And not to say, obviously we've talked about it. My favorite is softball. I could call softball all day, every day.
And good news, Kyle. You still get to do some of that softball and baseball action, when that season comes around too. So.
Yeah, but I do enjoy basketball too because it's so fast paced, and plus the scoreboard that we get to use is awesome. I enjoy this.
Hopefully there'll be an update kind of similar to the football scoreboard here pretty soon. So you'll have fun with that, I'm sure. All the fun toys. But yeah, I mean, it's all coming up down the pipe, and it's just been a whirlwind. These last few weeks have just been crazy hectic. We're done with my Thursday night slate. We have a Thursday night game on NETSN that our man Larry's going to have this week. But man, it's just I only have one basketball or one football game this week for the first time in like a month. So a little slower week for me, but we have basketball coming up, so that'll make up for it. So, man, what a week of football, though. You talked about the Westwood, drama that was this week. It came into fruition after we had our show last week. And so that all went down. Thankfully, the team wasn't punished, and they went out and got a close win. Now, I don't know the situation, but I know that the receiver, Dial, actually played quarterback this week. I don't know what happened. Do you know?
Kavian got ejected in the first half for – it was either – I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm going to, from what I've heard from a reporter we had at the game, that it was either a play happened where he went over to the Teague sideline and a player that was not in the game at the time for Teague pushed Bryant, and Bryant either pushed him back or threw a punch and was ejected from the game. So either way, he did get ejected from the game right before halftime. So he missed the entire second half. And I believe he has to miss the first half of the next game as well. So tough. Me and Coleman talked about it on OT. And I think we got to remember, like with everything that happened this past week with Westwood, these are 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. Like me and Coleman as grown adults trying to handle it in the newsroom, it was a lot for us to handle. So I can only imagine you being a kid, a senior on that team, not knowing if you're going to be able to finish out your year. I'm sure that took a toll emotionally, mentally on the kids. And Teague is not a terrible football team. Like they're a good team. They're not just, going to lay down. So that on top of your best player and quarterback getting ejected in the first half, I mean, new coach, it was a recipe for an upset. And Westwood, to their to credit them, they didn't allow themselves to get upset by Teague. They still went out there, found a way to win. But I'm glad all of it's behind them, and I think they'll perform a lot better this week coming up.
Yeah, they got that one game they need to get under their belt. They got to win. They did what they needed to do. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or by 50. A win is a win.
It all counts the same.
It does. So a big win. And shout out again, dibs to that whole program, the coaches that stepped up, all the players. I mean, that's just a tough situation. And I don't know, the decision wasn't made till Thursday. So they had to practice all week.
Right.
Not knowing whether that, so you don't know if the preparation, how it went all week. So now that they know,
not knowing who your coach is going to be. Like, are you going to have Coach Bishop there? Or are you going to have an interim coach? Who's going to be the interim coach? Like, I don't know if they, and maybe Mr. Stanford and Westwood over there, maybe they already had a contingency plan if it went the way it went on Thursday. But either way, yeah, for those kids, I mean, you don't know whether or not you're playing. You don't know who your coach is going to be. Like, that is a whirlwind of emotions.
Well, and good for them. They got the win, and hopefully they'll be able to get past it and continue to do what they've been doing all season, and that's get wins on the board. So, speaking of wins,
real quick,
yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever listened to one of those SEC meetings, the State Executive Committee meetings?
That was probably the first one I ever listened to.
It's the second one I've listened to. It's intense. It is intense and I do not envy those guys having to make decisions that affect kids every day. And somebody has to be there to make the tough decisions. And I know UIL gets crapped on a lot for a lot of the decisions they make, but I want to say I think they got this one right. I think they made the right decision, and I'm glad they're letting the kids play. But anyway, let's move on and talk football.
Let's talk about something good. Now, you talked about a win. I got 7 of those last week. I went 7-3. Not too bad. How'd you do last week, Kyle?
I went 6-4. Also not terrible. But there was a couple that kind of bit me. There was a couple of them that bit me.
Yeah, me too. Well, shout out. We had one person that went 9-1. That was our top score of the week. That was Skip Netherland. So shout out to Skip for taking care of business there. Yeah. We had about 8 people that had 8 out of 10. Let's see. Some guy named Jaron Peoples got 8 out of 10. Oh man, he gained on me.
I guess he's all right.
He's okay. I just don't want him to gain on me too many. He only got 1 on me. Brandon was there with me at 7. Our correspondent from the Tyler paper, Brandon Ogden. Oh, Larry Pierce down there at 7 too. So that was pretty popular number. As we go through these, there was just a few of these that I just was really surprised at. The first game on our pick'em was a game that I covered on Thursday night. You were there as well for the destruction of the Big Sandy Wildcats. Man, Wascom is they're good. Spoiler, they may have snuck into my poll this week after that impressive win. They scored 21 points, Kyle, and they didn't ever have the ball on offense, even a snap. Me and Jason were talking about it, and I don't know that I'd ever seen anything like that at a game where the offense didn't have the ball. It was almost the end of the quarter before they touched the ball the first time, and they were up 21-0. And I've been to a lot of football games in my life, and I don't remember that ever happening like that. It was impressive. They've got some dudes. When they beat Beckville a few weeks ago, I knew they were pretty good, but now I see why. I mean, they've got some guys that can play. They're looking pretty good in this district as they got the big win. Big Sandy's still got a lot of work to do. That district right now is a cluster. Now that everything's said and done, after these games, I'm interested to see kind of where it's sitting now. I really had, being at a game and driving home 3 hours the other night, I really didn't get to look a whole lot of how it was sitting. But now you've got a bunch of teams that are all mixed together. You've got Hawkins, Union Grove, and Legion Fields all have 2 wins. Now Hawkins has a 3rd loss, but you've got basically Wascom and Beckville kind of separate themselves now. So you've got 4 teams for 2 spots. So this last 2 weeks are going to be crazy important for these 2 teams. I don't know where Big Sandy sits. I know they have Hawkins and Union Grove ahead of them, so they got ahead of them what they need. 2 teams that are fighting for that spot. So it looks like to me, if they win out, they're probably in, just by the 2 teams that are ahead of them. So we will have the Union Grove Big Sandy game the last week of the season on NETSN. So that game may be a play-in game if possible, for one or maybe both of those teams. You still have Legion Fields there as well. Of course, they have a couple of easier games. Ore City and Harleton hadn't won, but they've got Wascom. So Legion Fields, they're looking at a tough one and 2 easier ones. So this is going to be interesting, Kyle. This district we've been looking at, this 8-team district, has just been just everyone beating up on each other.
Well, we talked about it too, that could be some teams that could play spoiler, and Harleton kind of did that this past week when they upset Union Grove, which kind of throws a wrench into it, because if Harleton messes around and wins out, which I think they'll win this week when they play Ore City, but if they can win that final game, you're looking at a Harleton team with 3 wins that's sitting there knocking on the door. But the problem is, I think Hawkins is a little behind the 8 ball here, and the only reason I say that is because they have losses to Legion Fields and Union Grove, 2 other teams that they're going to be battling to try and get in. So even if Hawkins wins out, which they got Wascom in week 11, I don't know how that's going to fare, but let's say they beat Big Sandy and they go to 3-3. Well, they own the tiebreaker over Big Sandy, but Elysian Fields, they lose to Wascom. They don't own the tiebreaker over Elysian Fields. I mean, so it's going to be tough for Hawkins to get into the playoffs. They're going to need to get a win over Big Sandy for sure to try and get in. But yeah, this district's a mess. But you were talking about that game on Thursday. I've never seen that either, where a team doesn't touch the ball on offense and nearly doesn't get it a whole quarter and is up 21 points. It's almost like Big Sandy just spotted them 21 and said, "All right, let's play from here." Like it was, but Wascom showed all 3 phases. They were dominant. They had a pick 6. They had a blocked punt for a touchdown. They had a punt return for a touchdown. They threw for a touchdown. They ran for a touchdown. Like they dominated in all phases of the game.
They went to the concession. They went to the concession stand and they got a touchdown there too. I think maybe even I don't know. Anywhere they went, it was a touchdown.
It was wild, but I hate it for Big Sandy because I love Coach Pullum over there at Big Sandy. But, 2 big games in this district. There are 2 district losses, 2 big games that they had against Wascom and Beckville. They kind of went out there and laid some eggs. Now, these other games, they play up, they play tight and competitive and are really in these games. But against the 2 better teams in this district, they went out there and laid some eggs. So got to find a way to get up for those big games and go out there and compete in those big games too. So I think maybe that's the next level for Coach Pullum to get that Big Sandy program too. But I think Big Sandy is in the driver's seat. I think they're going to be one of the 4 teams in. It'll come down. That Big Sandy Hawkins game on Friday is a big one. I think you could spin this district 2 different ways depending on who wins that game on Friday between Big Sandy and Hawkins. So. But yeah, Wascom looks really good. Wascom's a really good team.
Yeah, that's that. They were impressive. I haven't seen them before this season, so that was impressive. I mean, it was eye-opening there to call that game. Had a really good turnout on the stream. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, those games are, if you want to go see what we're talking about, you can go back and watch that game and see the Wascom defense and special teams dominance there early. It was a really good game. I did have Wascom in that one. I did get the win on that. The next game, though, man, this one surprised me a little bit. Tatum just got blown off the field by Atlanta. I don't know what happened there. I had Tatum to win. Me and 49 out of the 56 people that picked this week had Tatum as well. Only 7 Atlantas, and they stole one here. Atlanta, impressive win.
I don't know if maybe Tatum didn't get off the bus when they got over to Atlanta. Like, I don't know. It's strange. It's a strange loss for Tatum to take. Fortunately for Tatum, they get White Oak this week, which is kind of a get right game for them. No offense to the White Oak Roughnecks, but I think Tatum can get back into the win column this week, and then they got to end their season with Jefferson. I think, that win they got over Gladewater is a big one.
Yeah, I don't know that we knew how
could
big.
Be the win.
I don't know if we knew how big that was at the time. Like, we called that game.
No.
Jaron and Josh and I were over at that game, and at the time we're like, we were thinking that wouldn't be that big a deal. But now that they lose to Atlanta, yeah, it's definitely that one's going to keep them in the playoffs as long as they take care of business and beat White Oak. I don't know that they're going to beat Jefferson, but that would be a tall order. But as long as they take care of business against White Oak this week, they should be secure in that 4th spot.
Yeah, they should, because Gladewater has Atlanta this week, and with what Atlanta just did to Tatum, I don't see Gladewater winning that one. So, yeah,
now,
I think you.
If Gladewater could throw a real big wrench in it if they decide to there. I mean, that would be.
Yeah.
Oh,
they could.
That would be
they
something.
Could. But I think you got your 4 playoff teams. I think Jefferson, Liberty, Ilo, Atlanta, Tatum. I think those are your 4 playoff teams. The problem for Tatum is District 8 gets to play District 7. Over in District 7 is going to be the Malakoff Tigers in that number 1 spot. So
that's their reward.
So congrats. Maybe a first round exit though, if you get it. But you get in.
Mike Jones, what?
Who? Now, if Tatum goes into the first round and knocks off Malakoff, hold on now.
That DFW Malakoff team, supposedly.
That's right.
Oh, man. What about your Grand Saline Indians, Kyle?
Love it.
I had Grand Saline this one at 47 out of the 56 had Grand Saline as well. Big win for Grand Saline. They take control of that district. Yeah,
I think this puts them on an easy path to the district championship now. I'm impressed, man. It's Grand Saline out of the gate against Cooper and Palmer. We talked about it. They had a couple of close games, but since then, they've been rolling. They struggled a little bit early on with Lone Oak. I think that's more of a credit to Coach Turner and the Lone Oak Buffaloes over there. But with the type of offense that Grand Saline runs, it just wears you down. And I think without seeing any of the game, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that they wore the Buffaloes down towards the end of that game. And that's why the score looks the way it did. But man, shout out to the Grand Saline Indians and Coach Joe Drennan. I'm excited to see where they end up at the end of the year. This is a special team, I think.
All right. I had Grand Saline. I was one of those fans that I'm like, man, just seeing the points they put up, to me, it tells a lot about Lone Oak too. Because Lone Oak, held them to 28 points. They haven't been held to that amount since week 1 when Cooper held them to 27. Now, we talked about Cooper earlier in the year. Man, they're
pretty good, aren't they?
They're not as bad as we thought. We kind of thought maybe they were a little down in Cooper, but I think they hurt us.
I don't think so.
And they got a big one this week. It could be one of our pick'em games. A pretty big game this week. So, all right, next up, Alto and Overton. Overton was behind early in this game, and I was like, come on, Mustangs, I had you here over Alto. And they ended up coming back and getting a big win. And that looking at this district here, Kyle, this one's another one of those interesting ones. We've kind of had our eye on this district for most of the season. And you've got Overton now tied with Grapeland at second place at 3-1. Now, they have the tiebreaker. So technically Overton right now is sitting in that second spot. They have Mount Enterprise left, which will be a little bit of a test this week. We'll have that game on NETSN. but then they finish with Cushing, which is 0-4 in the district. So Overton's looking pretty good right now for that second spot in this district. Now, Alto, they dropped to 2-3 now. They've got Mount Enterprise the last week of the season. Okay. That game could be for fourth. Because right
That's
now,
a play-in
Alto is
game.
yeah. So you're looking at Alto and Mount Enterprise. That's like, what is it? A pre-bye district game, whatever you want to call it. It's a play-in game, basically, like you said. I mean, that game is probably going to determine who's at fourth spot. Now, Mount Enterprise comes in, they knock off Overton, and we get some other weird things happen, possible. But in all essence, it looks like that game is going to be for fourth place. So we'll see how that turns out. But big win for the Overton Mustangs this week.
Yeah, I kind of hate it for Alto. After that 5-0 start, they're 1-3 in their last 4, with their 1 win, a 2-point win over Tenaha. It's been kind of a rough stretch for Alto. They get a week off this week to kind of heal up, and yeah, I mean, playoffs start November 8th for Alto. That's no matter. I mean, even if Mount Enterprise wins in this game over Overton, the Alto still needs that win over Mount Enterprise to get into the playoffs. So win or lose, this game in week 11 between Alto and Mount Enterprise will be a playoff game, essentially. So, yeah, I think, Overton's impressive. I really like this Overton team that lost to Lovelady. I mean, what do you say? Lovelady's a really good team. But, yeah, I think they've pretty much cemented themselves as the 2 seed. If they can take care of business against Mount Enterprise this week, then I think they're sitting pretty going into that final week against Cushing.
All right. Speaking of Lovelady, they knocked off Mount Enterprise this week, 52-22. Not surprising to me. What surprised me is 20 out of the 56 picked Mount Enterprise in this game. So that was a little surprising to me. I don't know if it's because people are looking at records and they're not looking at the teams. I thought it was not an easy pick, but I didn't have any problem picking Lovelady over Mount Enterprise.
Well,
they've done.
You know what made it a lot easier is when Mount Enterprise's best player, Keegan Ash, is not on the field. So
Yeah.
when Mount Enterprise doesn't have Keegan Ash and you're playing Lovelady, you take Lovelady.
You know what that means, though, Kyle? That means they're not listening to our show. Those that pick Mount Enterprise weren't listening to us when we told them that he hasn't been playing. So if we do have some good knowledge here at some point, so you should be listening to our show to help you with our picks. We're not at the top of the pick'ems for no reason. Like, we're not at the very top, but we're pretty consistently at the top end. So we might know something.
And we have sources.
Yeah.
Sources.
Yeah. But yeah, no surprise here. Easy win for Lovelady. They've got Cushing and Grapeland left. Now, the only scenario you have left, you could have a 3-way tie scenario on the horizon. You have Grapeland the last week of the season, so Grapeland knocks off Lovelady, then you have a 3-way tie for first, and then some tiebreakers could come into effect. But that game is in Lovelady, so Grapeland's got a tough, tall order ahead of them, but they've still got a chance to kind of move themselves up if they're able to get that win. They do have Cushing first, but we assume they'll knock Cushing off, and that'll be a big game, week 11 there.
Yeah, I think this is Lovelady's district. That, like you said, I think Grapeland has a chance to throw a wrench into things. I think I like Grapeland's defense a lot, but Overton scored 41 on Grapeland, and Lovelady put up 41 on Overton. So by my math in my head, I think Lovelady's going to put up some points. So I think that, but yeah, I'm impressed with Lovelady. Spoiler alert, they might have gotten a vote to get in my top 10.
Okay. All right. Next game up, game 6, Timpson and Joaquin. If you like points, you like this game. There was 100 points scored, actually 101 points scored. As Timpson, they did what they've been doing all year, is just outscoring you people. 52-49, a big win on the road in Joaquin. And the Timpson Bears, they were doubted this week. Only 11 people picked the Timpson Bears to win. I was one of those, by the way. I had Timpson. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And Timpson, they're still the man right now. They're still the state champions. I thought Joaquin could play with them, but I thought Timpson could take care of it. JJ Garner's been back. So shout out to Timpson for a big win there.
I kind of regret saying this, knowing that I'm going to Timpson this week, but I did not pick the Timpson Bears. I was on the Joaquin juice.
Timpson, you hear that? Timpson fans, if you see KO at the game, give him a hard time. He did not pick the Timpson Bears. He picked the Joaquin Rams to win last week. Come on.
I was almost right. I was sipping the Joaquin juice. Okay, I was sipping the Joaquin juice, and it came back to bite me. What a game, man! Timpson has been involved in some of these this year. That Lovelady game where they won 50-48, a 1-point loss to Shelbyville a week ago, 58-57, and this 3-point win over Joaquin. You're right. They're not stopping anybody. They're just outscoring you. So, which is going to be interesting this week when they take on a Garrison team that has a good defense. How are they going to be able to counteract that? We'll talk about that later. But impressive win for Timpson. And you're right. It was wrong of me to underestimate the Timpson Bears. And you said it best. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, the Timpson Bears are still the defending 2A state champs. So, spoiler alert, there goes my pick for later, too.
Another game, which was a lot closer than I thought, was the Troop and West Rusk game. Troop snuck away with a win over West Rusk. And Kyle, this one, I just thought Troop would take care of business. I don't know if they just were so worn out from the New Diana game the week before, or if they just maybe they thought, West Rusk is not playing well this year, or just West Rusk just had a really good game. But this was a 2-point game. Yeah, I don't know.
It went 5 overtimes, Brett. It went 5 overtimes.
Hey, it was a little bit higher scoring than the last week's 5 overtime game, Kyle.
It was. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's true. But 5 overtimes, man. And I think both things can be true. I think Troop still played a good game, but I think West Rusk also played up because they know playoffs are coming around the corner.
It's a rivalry game too. I mean, Troop West Rusk, that's still a big rivalry.
Well, and you still got Elkhart there. Now, I know West Rusk has the tiebreaker over Elkhart, but West Rusk has Buffalo and ARP remaining on their schedule. They're not going to lose to Buffalo because Buffalo got beat by Winona. So let's just put that in.
Wow. Well, hold on. Oh, it's Winona calling me here. Oh,
I don't care.
Oh, yeah, the disrespect.
Just saying. Buffalo got beat by Winona, so I think West Rusk is going to be all right. But then that last game of the season against ARP could be for something. I'm not saying it'll knock either one of them out of the playoffs, but ARP's got New Diana this week. Let's assume they lose to New Diana, and West Rusk gets a win over ARP. Both teams 3-2 going into that final week. That could be for seeding there. So I think West Rusk played up in this game, and Troop was in a dogfight. But shout out to Troop and Coach Wells being able to pull out that win, a tight win in 5 overtimes too. Intense game.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think we've been looking at it for over the last few weeks that we're eyeballing that West Rusk and ARP game there for that 3rd and 4th seed. I do know ARP did clinch a playoff spot this week, so they're actually locked in. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be West Rusk and ARP there for those last 2 spots. We'll see how it shuffles up over the next couple of weeks, but I'm impressed with West Rusk's ability to stay with Troop. That's a good game for them. That's a tough way to lose, but I mean that's a fight that I think they should be proud of there because Troop's a good football team.
I agree.
All right, the next one, and I missed this one. Man, Pleasant Grove. I'm sorry, Pleasant Grove. At least Eddie's not here. Eddie would be giving us a hard time, Kyle. I'm sure if Eddie, if he's ever going to be chatting on our show, it's probably this one because he's probably giving me a hard time for sure. Pleasant Grove beat Gilmer. I don't want to say like a drum, but 27-10. It wasn't close. Man, what a big win for Pleasant Grove. as they take control of this district?
Yeah, well, I'm going to use the theory that I did not use for Timpson and Joaquin as the reason that I picked Gilmer in this one. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Gilmer's defending 4A state champs.
I guess Pleasant Grove's the man.
Pleasant Grove's the man. So, in fairness, though, Pleasant Grove did beat Gilmer last year when Gilmer won state. So it's not all doom and gloom for the Buckeyes. But yeah, I guess PG's a little better than we thought. Yeah, I think Pleasant Grove is front runner for this district now. I think Gilmer is going to get your second seed. They got Spring Hill and North Lamar left. That should be two pretty easy wins for the Buckeyes. And since they have that win over Van, that locks them into that 2 seed, I believe. So Gilmer's going to be fine. This is when Gilmer football, this is when they actually start playing these games as the playoffs start approaching. So Gilmer's going to be fine, but got to keep an eye on this Pleasant Grove team. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with too.
All that means is Gilmer Carthage 1 round earlier.
Yeah, it's true. And then maybe Pleasant Grove Carthage the week after that. I'm okay with that.
So now here's something I want to shout out to our viewers. If you know this, please comment or email us or something. I need to know what happened in this Paris game. This Paris game, we've been talking about it. Now I really want to know, like, they played Kilgore to within 6, but they lost to Paris by 7. Like,
didn't score a point. 7-0.
Yeah, I just need to know what happened. Like, I don't know. It's the anomaly of their seat. It doesn't fit. What does not go together?
Who we need to ask? We need to ask Diggs. Since Paris is a DFW school, he should have the scoop on what happened against Pleasant Grove. So we need to ask Diggs.
We do. We need to talk to him. We need to ask him about that. But this doesn't make sense there. Another game that Kyle, you were at this game. I was kind of following along. The Chapel Hill Pine Tree was a red zone game of the week. Spoiler there that Pine Tree did win. Unfortunately, my team lost, and it wasn't the game that was the biggest loss. Is Ricky Stewart went out early in this game, didn't return, some kind of injury. We don't want to speculate on what it is at this point, but he did go out and did not return. But Chapel Hill still hung in with them and still played Pine Tree a good contest, even without Brisbane and Stewart in the mix. So still pretty impressive, but that long run and that is a long pitch and catch play at the end. Wasn't to the running back. It was a short pass. They broke off long, wasn't it? Or was it a little short?
It was a slant route to Jordan Taylor, the receiver,
but it wasn't a long route, but he just broke out with it. We were watching the game as we were packing up the other night. So, shout out to Pine Tree. I'll give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Pine Tree Live, their web stream. They got a stream out at the Chapel Hill Football Stadium. I mean, that's the shout out. We tuned in and watched it. And through their stream, but man, what a big win for Pine Tree! And now this district, Kyle, we've been talking about 5 for 4 spots, and it's kind of we're kind of seeing some things take shape. We kind of got Kilgore is sitting pretty. You've got Henderson and Pine Tree. All 3 of those teams have 1 loss. Okay, Henderson has some interesting games left with Chapel Hill and Lindale. Pine Tree's got Lindale and Palestine. It looks like to me that you got Pine Tree and Kilgore pretty solid there, 1-2, in my opinion. Henderson, Chapel Hill, and Lindale are the three teams I think are fighting for 2 spots. Lindale with the toughest task, but they do have the games in front of them to do it. So, what do you think about your chances for your Lindale Eagles over there, Kyle?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, Bubba. If I'm being honest, it's going to be real tough. If you're Lindale, you got to win out. I mean, and like you said, they have the games. If you're Lindale, though, this is how you want it. I would rather be in the position Lindale's in than the position Chapel Hill's in. And let me explain why. Chapel Hill's got 1 game left. That's it. That final week of the regular season, they have nothing to do. The hay's already in the barn. There is nothing they can do in that final week. Their fate is sealed after Friday night. So I would rather be in the position of Lindell where, okay, I can't control what other teams do. All I can control is what we do. And if Lindell, in my opinion, from looking at the standings, if Lindell beats Pine Tree and Henderson, they're in. I think now the only caveat to that, is if Chapel Hill beats Henderson Friday, then Chapel Hill has 4 wins and the tiebreaker over Lindell. So the only caveat is if Chapel Hill wins on Friday, then I think there's nothing Lindell can do about it. But if Chapel Hill loses, the door's open for Lindell.
No,
So
they could still do it, Kyle, because if Chapel Hill wins on Friday, that would give Henderson their second loss. So they would be 3-2. So if you guys win out, you would be 4-2, and they would be 4-2. And Chapel Hill would be 4-2.
So there is a case where Henderson could miss the playoffs totally. If they lose to Chapel Hill and Lindell, then Henderson could be
and
out.
Actually, Pine Tree would also be 4-2 because Lindell would beat them, and they probably would beat Palestine. So you'd have 4 teams at 4-2. Whoa! Yeesh!
This district is stupid.
So it's still up in the air. This week's going to be a big factor on who's going to be available as far as who can do what. But that
and it'll
scenario
still come down to that final week.
That scenario is there where you could have 4 teams at 4-2. So 4 teams with winning records, and one of them would not make the playoffs.
Do you know what the district tiebreaker is? Like how they do the points? Do you know the point situation?
You'd think it would be head-to-head first against the teams.
Right.
They're all there. So the 4 teams, their record against those 4.
But they all beat up on each other, so it's going to come down to some type of points thing.
Henderson would then lose to Chapel Hill, Lindell,
and Pine Tree.
No, they couldn't lost to all of them. Who'd they beat?
They did lose. Henderson lost to Pine Tree.
Okay,
Henderson lost to Pine Tree. And if they lose out,
they would lose to Lindell.
Chapel Hill and Lindell.
They would be 1-2 in that scenario. Chapel Hill would have lost to Pine Tree and beat Henderson, so they would be 2-1. So it'd be because since Henderson's one of their wins is against Kilgore, that would actually hurt them in that scenario, I think.
I don't know. We just got to get through next. Anyway, about Friday night. So the Pine Tree and Chapel Hill game, it was a fun one, man. Going into it, I was concerned for Pine Tree on if they would have a letdown from that Henderson game the week before. Starting off, it was kind of back and forth with both teams playing good defense. By the way, Coach McFarland, shout out to Coach McFarland. I got to see him pregame, talk to him. He talked to me after halftime a little bit. I didn't get to see him after the game, but the Chapel Hill defense, Brett, much improved. Now, I know they gave up that big play at the end of the game, but over the course of the game, they played really, really good defense against a Pine Tree team that can put up points and that can run the football. Held them to about 150 yards, 160 yards in that range, both passing and rushing. So kind of a balance, but not a lot of yards either way. What hurt Chapel Hill defensively were the big plays. They gave up that big 73-yard touchdown at the end of the game with 3 minutes left. And then they had an absolute dime from Matt Cates to Khalil Deckard for Pine Tree. I mean, dropped it right in the basket. The defender was there. I mean, there was just there's no defense for the perfect throw. So that was 2 of their scores, and then an 8-yard rushing touchdown by Cates was the 3rd touchdown. So it's not like they played bad defense. And we talked about it. Ricky got hurt on the first play of the game. It was a hip drop tackle, a lower leg injury, we'll put it that way, and then he wasn't there. He played the rest of the first half. Now, he was limited, and he only had 4 carries in that first half. And you've got to imagine with a healthy Ricky, he gets more carries than 4 in the first half. But Chapel Hill didn't run a lot of plays in the first half either. It was mostly controlled by Pine Tree, but Malik G was able to find Malik Brown I believe is his name, for the number 10 for Chapel Hill. I think that's his name. But anyway, hit him with a long touchdown pass. And Chapel Hill actually had a 7-0 lead. When Pine Tree scored, they missed the extra point, had a 7-6 lead. Pine Tree went down and scored right before half to make it 13-7 at half. Chapel Hill and Pine Tree scoreless in the third quarter. That's what I'm talking about. Defenses played really good on both sides. Fourth quarter, Chapel Hill scored. Malik G scored with about 5:46 left in the game to take a 14-13 lead. But then Pine Tree, boom, 73-yard slant route to Jordan Taylor to take the lead in the offense. Offense shot themselves in the foot a couple of times. I think there were some drives. You could tell they were missing Ricky and Demetrius in the backfield. There was a couple of times where Malik just couldn't. They didn't have that playmaker to hit that play, get that first down when they need it, move the sticks, and at the end of the game, Malik kind of made a little bit of a mental mistake. They had no timeouts, got the ball back under a minute to go, was trying to step up in the pocket to make a play, and unfortunately took a sack, which with no timeouts rolled 15, 20 valuable seconds off the clock. So, yeah, to your point, phenomenal effort by Chapel Hill. I think if you would have told me going into that game, the Chapel Hill doesn't have Demetrius or Ricky in the backfield, I say Pine Tree wins by 2 or 3 touchdowns. So phenomenal effort by Chapel Hill. They still can go out this week, beat Henderson, and lock themselves into the playoffs, I think. So I think it's all in front of Chapel Hill still. You got to take care of business this week. Biggest concern is what's the status of Ricky Stewart. That's the biggest concern for Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're looking forward. Hopefully we'll get Brisbane back, and if Stewart's healthy, and it doesn't matter what seed they get in the dance. That region's wide open. I would not be surprised if the top 4 seed teams that make the playoffs end up being the top 4 teams in the region. Would not shock me at all, because this region, there's not the other teams in this region like there have been in the past, where there's maybe 1 or 2 other teams that were pretty strong. This district probably has the top 5 teams in the region. Unfortunately, one of them won't be able to move on. So they were in the other district. They will be not as tough there. Unfortunately, only 4 make it. Hey, good news is 4 make it. Back in the day, only 2 made it whenever I was in school.
Oh, man. Yeah, yeah.
So
I think the transition to 4 happened maybe it didn't. Maybe it happened a lot earlier. But I want to say it happened around the time that I was in school, from 2 to 4. Because I remember, I think it was just 2. And then but I could be wrong. I don't remember when exactly it happened.
All right, final game 10. Tyler High took the L. They traveled to Midlothian and got beat 42-28. Sorry, T-High. I had Midlothian just they're struggling right now. Looking at this district here, you've got Highland Park, Midlothian at 4-0 on top of the district. Then you have this big middle mess, and Tyler High right now is on the outside looking in. They've got Red Oak left, but Red Oak's kind of a couple of places ahead of them. So I don't know. Maybe
not so fast, my friend. Not so fast, my friend.
Am I missing
Red
something?
Red Oak has Midlothian this week. Let's assume they lose to Midlothian. That'll drop them to 3-2. Then Tyler plays Red Oak at the end of the year.
Are you trying to be Lee Corso?
Hey, Tyler plays Red Oak at the end of the year, and it's in Tyler. That could be for the final playoff spot. Okay. That game could be for the final playoff spot.
So Red Oak did beat Burleson Centennial. So could those 3 end up being tied?
I didn't even factor Burleson into this. I forgot about them. I see them sitting there at 2-2, but I didn't even factor them in. They've got Highland Park. They're going to lose to that one.
They've got Highland Park and they've got Joshua left. So they should be at 3-3.
Yeah, probably. And Tyler lost to Burleson. And Burleson lost to Midlothian.
I'm missing one of the Red Oak games here for some reason. I think they've got a game we don't have factored in.
You think?
Yeah, because
they're 3-1 in district.
Oh no! See, I have 2-1 in district. They're missing a game. Talking about Red Oak?
Yeah, 3-1 with the. On Texas football?
Oh no, that's not where I am.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, so Midlothian and Highland Park are 4-0, Red Oak's 3-1, Centennial's 2-2, and Tyler's 2-3. So I think you're right. I mean, Tyler still needs to win that game over Red Oak, but you may be right that even if they win that game over Red Oak, I think it could still be Red Oak and Burleson in.
It's probably going to be a point spread thing.
Yeah.
So you have Burleson Centennial. Tyler High right now is a -6 with that game, and then you've got Red Oak right now would be a +2. Burleson
and Midlothian over Burleson was a +4.
Well, it wouldn't. The Midlothian game wouldn't matter. It'd be the +-
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Those three teams.
Right,
so Burleson Centennial is right now. They're +6 there and -2, so they're a +4. So right now, Tyler High, they would need to beat Red Oak by a decent margin, I think. So they're going to need to put up some points and win by a couple. And that's if all the things fall the way we see them fall. So you just never know. But gotta love these. This is what we love.
You're saying there's a chance.
Fun. Yeah, I'm saying there's a chance. But man, it just shows that all these districts that we're talking about so highly contested. Still, all these races are up for grabs, and that's what makes it fun. Having the 4 teams, we talk about it, waters stuff down. But, man, it makes it interesting. It gives a lot of teams chances, and it gives us a lot of fun things to talk about.
It's also going to cause for some big blowouts in week 1 of the postseason.
Yeah, week one postseason, WEAK, as Corey would say.
Yeah.
Week 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at our polls this week. Kyle, we had stayed the same for a few weeks on the 6A, 5A, but I had to make a change this week. Tyler High's lost a couple in a row, so I moved the team up that is starting to play well as of late. They've played a tough schedule. As my 5th team, the White House Wildcats have moved into the poll for me in the 5th spot. So I've got Texas High, Longview, Lufkin, Marshall all stayed the same, and White House in at 5. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah. Mine didn't change at all because I had White House at 5 last week. So I just kept the same 5 teams. This one was pretty easy.
And that is how the poll shook out. It has Texas High, Longview, Lufkin, Marshall, and White House. So White House is, we questioned the Mount Pleasant game earlier in the year, but it seems like they've kind of got things looking a little bit better here. That district is you've got Texas High as kind of the king of the mountain per se. Now White House is sitting at 3-2, right behind Marshall and Texas High. So, they've got Marshall ahead of them. So, at this point, they could beat Marshall and they could get second. So they're sitting right in there. Marshall.
It's going to be kind of what last year. Last year came down to Marshall and White House for that 2nd seed, and I think that's the same thing.
Yeah, week 11, big game. Could be a pick'em game. I don't know. We'll see when we get to that far ahead. But, yeah, it's going to be a big game there. So I've got White House and Marshall right next to each other, and it looks like they're going to be right next to each other in that district. All right, let's go to 4A. Should be interesting. Maybe a little shake-up in 4A after some interesting outcomes here. All right, so 4A, I've got Carthage at 1. I moved Kilgore up from 3 to 2. Pine Tree moved up from 4 to 3. Pleasant Grove shot up my poll from 9 to 4 after that big win over Gilmer. I've got Center from 6 to 5. I've got Van moved up from 7 to 6, and I've got Chapel Hill drop from 5 to 7. Gilmer fell all the way down from 2 to 8. I've got Henderson has moved down a spot from 8 to 9. They were idle, but I was impressed by the Pleasant Grove win. That was just a big win. I had to move them. And then I have Athens still sitting at 10.
Well, I like your movement that you had. Mine didn't move as much, but that's because I had the teams that you moved already in those positions. It's like I was already forward thinking.
So you were ahead of me.
So,
okay, maybe you look bad. That's fine. Go ahead. That's cool.
My top three remain the same. I got Carthage, Kilgore, Pine Tree as my top three. I moved Henderson, even though they were idle. I moved them from 5 to 4. Moved Center from 6 to 5 because I dropped Chapel Hill from 4 to 6. Chapel Hill's 3 losses. Carthage, Kilgore, Pine Tree. My top 3. that's Chapel Hill's 3 losses. That's insane.
Yeah.
I only moved Pleasant Grove up 1 spot from 8 to 7 because they beat my 7 team, which was Gilmer. So I dropped them from 7 to 8 and kept Sulphur at 9 and Van at 10. I didn't drop Pleasant Grove, or I didn't move Pleasant Grove ahead of Chapel Hill because of what I just said. Chapel Hill's 3 losses are to the top 3 teams. So I couldn't put them ahead of Chapel Hill because of that, but I also don't have a problem with Pleasant Grove being ahead of Chapel Hill either.
I mean, Pleasant Grove beat Gilmer by more points, and then they played Carthage better.
What did we say
Kilgore,
about points earlier?
better.
It doesn't matter how much you win by,
I
as long
know,
as you get
but
the win.
it's just the way that I look at the teams comparison. So,
That's what I'm saying. I just didn't drop them because of that, but I'm not opposed to PG being ahead of Chapel Hill. Like, if that's what the poll shows, I wouldn't gripe about it.
Well, let's look and see what it says here.
Let's
See how
see.
our fellow voters got the vote shaken out. All right, so we got Carthage 1, Kilgore 2, Pine Tree 3, Pleasant Grove 4, Center 5, and a tie with Henderson. Gilmer and Chapel Hill tied at 7, Van at 9, and Sulphur Springs at 10.
And
Okay.
Chapel Hill and Henderson will sort themselves out this week when they play. So,
Yeah. So there'll be some sort of Athens and Center will also be there. We'll see how if Center can maintain that spot. Or I have Athens down there at 10. I know they didn't make the overall poll, but they've been pretty good this season. We'll see where they stack up. We might talk about that game here in a minute. All right, let's see. The always interesting 3A, 2A TAPS poll. Mine didn't move a whole lot. I have Malakoff at 1, Westwood 2, Jefferson 3, New Diana 4, Liberty Isle 5, Winsboro 6. Those all stayed the same. Tatum lost, so I did drop them out. So I moved Shelbyville up from 8 to 7, Grand Saline up from 9 to 8, Lovelady up from 10 to 9, and I added the Wascom Wildcats in the bottom of my poll at number 10 after their impressive showing in Big Sandy.
I don't hate that. My poll literally stayed the same 1 through 7. I got Malakoff at 1, Westwood at 2, New Diana at 3, Jefferson at 4, Winsboro at 5, Grand Saline at 6, Liberty Isle at 7. I had Tatum at 8, so Tatum they gone. Dropped them out. Moved Grapeland up from 9 to 8. Moved Shelbyville up from 10 to 9. And in my 10th spot, I added in the Lovelady Lions because I'm impressed with what Lovelady's doing right now.
All right. I like that. All right. Let's take a look and see what the overall tabulations say. All right. We got Malakoff 1, Westwood 2, New Diana 3, Jefferson 4, Winsboro 5, Liberty Isle 6, Grand Saline 7, Shelbyville 8, Beckville 9, and Wascom 10. Wascom behind Beckville? I don't know if I agree with that.
No, can't have that when Wascom beat them head up by 2 touchdowns.
Somebody's got Beckville in there still. I took Beckville out when I saw what Wascom did, and I can't have, even though Beckville didn't lose, I couldn't have Wascom not in the poll, and they beat Beckville by 2 touchdowns. And after you look at their losses, they're not bad losses. So I think they lost to Garrison and Shelbyville?
Shelbyville, I think.
Yeah, and I've got them below Shelbyville. Garrison, they're not in our poll, but they're a solid team kind of floating under the radar in a tough district. So I don't know. That's interesting where that fell, but I think consistently our top 7 or 8 have been kind of there for a little bit. They're kind of established themselves. We got some pretty good small school teams that have got good chances to make nice little runs, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back and let's take a look. Oh, we need to talk about the overall leaderboard, even though we probably know who's leading. Now, Mr. Scott Poole still leads by 7 points over everybody. We got James Franks is now in second with 67. And third, we have a 4-way tie. Michael Davis, Russ Miller, Steve Evans, and Wes Shue all at 65. So let's see. We roll down here. I'm leading the NETSN crew. I got 61. Let's see. Is anyone down here below me here? We got Jaron at 58. I don't see anyone else. So I don't know what Corey had. He fell off the top list. Kyle, where are you at here? I can't see you. I need to get my binoculars. Let's see. Oh, wait, there he is. He's got 54. Okay. So you're in 22nd place. You and Come On Ref Larry Pierce are down there together. So not too bad.
Hey, that's not terrible. Okay, that's not terrible. We're trying to finish the season on a strong note.
Okay, well, let's pick some games. Good news is you get the whole new slate of games this week to try to move up.
10-0 this week, baby. 10-0.
10-0. Okay, all right. Week 10. Have you looked at the picks yet? Have you looked at the games?
I have only seen the first 3.
Okay. A big Halloween game on NETSN as Shelbyville and Joaquin lock up for what is probably going to be another high-scoring game. I could see 100 points easy in this game. Both of these teams are putting up a lot of points. Man, Shelbyville has just looked so impressive with DJ Barnes and what they've done. I just can't pick against the Dragons right now. They have been impressive. So I'm going to take Shelbyville to knock off Joaquin on a Thursday night football on NETSN game.
I took Joaquin last week. I was drinking the Joaquin juice last week against Timpson. I'm not falling for that again. Give me the Shelbyville Dragons in this one. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm excited to see this game on Thursday, and I think there's going to be some good action there. And I think the Shelbyville Dragons are gonna win this one. You know what I like about this district though, Brett? Top 4 teams, they're all playing each other. You got Shelbyville taking on Joaquin and Garrison playing Timpson. So you got all 4 of them playing each other. This week will go a long way in deciding that playoff picture. So looking forward to this one. But give me Shelbyville.
You are correct. All right, game 2. Wascom takes on Elysian Fields in another big game in that district. These two teams are not far apart from each other. Know each other very well. Man, after I saw what Wascom has last week, I just can't pick against Wascom right now, man. They are so impressive. They've got dudes all over the place, and they can score from anywhere. They can score from the concession stand. Like I said, they got a guy at concession stand. He's going to pick the ball off somehow. I don't know. I'm taking Wascom.
Yeah, after what I saw, we talked about it earlier, how they were dominant in all 3 phases and scoring every which way possible. I think they get a little tougher test this week from Elysian Fields. But I don't think it's going to be anything that too tough for the Wascom Wildcats. Give me the
Big Sandy beat Elysian Fields by 5.
I understand. But different scenarios.
I know. I'm just thinking, man, it's a rivalry game too, so that always,
right.
Makes it
Exactly.
So, all right, game 3, Big Sandy and Wascom. I mean, not Wascom, Hawkins. I'm still stuck on Wascom. They were so impressive. Big Sandy and Hawkins. Big Sandy goes on the road to play Hawkins. This is an important game, man. I look and see Hawkins has not played Wascom. So they finished the season with 2 tough ones at Big Sandy and Wascom. This is a must-win for the Hawks to have any chance here in this district. I don't know. I want to pick Big Sandy, but they didn't look good last week. They're traveling to Hawkins. I think this week's practice, Coach Pullum he's gonna have them ready this week. I think they're gonna be refocused. This is a big game for them. I think they've got to look at, they want that 3rd spot in this district, and I think they're on the way to get it. and this is the first step. I'm taking Big Sandy to get the win over Hawkins.
Man, this is a tough one. Another rivalry game, separated by about 7 miles down Highway 80. Man, if you try to compare scores, yes, Hawkins lost to Elysian Fields by 3. Big Sandy beat Elysian Fields by 5. And then Hawkins' other loss to Union Grove was by 1. And Big Sandy hadn't played Union Grove yet. Both of them lost to Beckville in similar fashions. Both of them beat Ore City in similar fashions. These two teams are very similar.
Let me get my coin out, Kyle. Let me flip my coin here for this one.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I think, Hawkins puts up more points. I think they have the better offense all around. Hawkins is at home. Give me the Hawkins Hawks.
All right. Game 4. Another game on NETSN. Overton and Mount Enterprise. Man, those Mustangs are a good team. I don't know how healthy Mount Enterprise is going to be at this point in the season. We don't know. But I know what Overton has. And they're trying to finish their season off strong. They want that number 2 seed. They've got their eye on it. They've already knocked off Grapeland. They're not going to let this game get in their way. They're going to go to Mount Enterprise, and they're going to get the win live on NETSN. The NETSN bump is going to be there for the Overton Mustangs. That is a real thing, by the way. You get that bump. Now, some don't take advantage of it, but it is a bump. They're going to have everybody that can't go to the game. They're going to be watching. It's going to be a insanely hyped chat. The Overton Mustang faithful are going to be there in person and online. They're going to go in and get the win in Mount Enterprise.
Yeah, I don't think this one's very close, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know the status of Keegan Ash and if he's going to be healthy for Mount Enterprise, but I like this Overton team. I like the cut of their jib that they got going on in Overton. So give me the Mustangs.
All right, game 5. One of the toughest ones on the pick'em here, Kyle. Cooper and Honey Grove going at it. Now, we talked about this earlier. We saw it Cooper early. They lost the first 2 games, and we're like, what's wrong with Cooper? Then they lost. They won a game, then lost another. They were 1-3 at one point. Now they've won 5 in a row, and they're shutting people down. 22-0, 55-0, 56-14, 29-15, 18-9. I mean, that's pretty good defense. Last time I checked, that was at least. You got Honey Grove, 4-1. Their only loss is to a really good Winsboro team. They're also playing good defense. 44-22, 48-6, 54-7, 42-7, 41-7. Man, this is just – it's tough to me here. Now, Honey Grove was more impressive against Rivercrest, which is the next best team in the district. This game is at home. So I'm going with the Honey Grove Indians to get the win over Cooper.
It's the Honey Grove Warriors, Brett.
Oh,
the Honey Grove
Warriors?
Warriors.
I'm sorry. Warriors.
If you're going to pick them, let's get the name right.
I'm sorry.
The disrespect.
It is. I'm sorry, Honey Grove. That's because they're a DFW team, Kyle. Remember?
That's right. Yeah, everything you said is true. I mean, Cooper is playing a lot better football right now, but the way Honey Grove has been dominating people here recently, and got to see Honey Grove at the state 7-on-7 tournament this year as well. So, and they're at home, and they had a week off. Give me the Honey Grove Warriors.
I like the week off. That's a good point. You get 2 weeks to prepare for somebody. That's that's tough. All right.
And you ain't got to leave.
That's true. Another game that's a really, really big game. We got Jefferson and Liberty Ilo. Man, we got some slugfest this week, Kyle. Both these teams are playing really well right now. I'm just going to kind of talk through. We'll start with Jefferson, the Bulldogs. Both these teams are in our poll. 8-0 on the season. They're putting up points, and they're not allowing many points against most of the teams that they play. We got 41-0, 47-38, but that was against Newton. all know Newton's always got a good team. The DeKalb one was a close one, a little bit of a rivalry. DeKalb beat Dangerfield. We know DeKalb's pretty good this year, 36-30. Beat Pittsburgh 40-15. Gladewater 41-12. Atlanta 43-14. White Oak 60-0. Sabine 74-12. I mean, they're stomping holes through people. You go over and look at Liberty Ilo. Now, I think their schedule's been tougher. So I think Liberty Ilo has played some tougher teams. They did play Pittsburgh. They had no problems with them, 48-7. Henderson, they're ranked in our 4A poll. They beat them 44-41. They lost to Carthage. So does everybody else except Kilgore. The Bullard one's a little iffy, but they are 4A. They're stepping up, 27-24. They haven't beaten people as bad. So they beat Tatum by 10, which we saw Atlanta dominate Tatum. They beat Gladewater by 15, not quite as much of a domination. Atlanta 42-6. White Oak 70-20. Man, this is tough because Jefferson's just been that guy, and their schedule is not as tough, so it's hard for me to determine. Okay, they played a Newton team, which was pretty good, but I don't think they played anybody in their schedule as tough as Carthage or Henderson. I think those two games, I don't see even Newton. They're a smaller. I think that step up is big for Liberty Ilo. They dropped down from 4A. But Jefferson's been so good. It's hard to pick against Jefferson. I know they're on the road, but this is a coin flip to me too. This is hard. But I think I'm going to ride with the Bulldogs. They haven't lost a game. They've played and they've been impressive. They've been taking care of business. So I'm going to go with the Jefferson Bulldogs win on the road.
Yeah, you laid it out there beautifully. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it that Liberty Ilo dropping down and the tougher schedule and all that. Jefferson's 8-0, and they're dominating people. I mean, they're mollywhopping people. So I'm taking the Jefferson Bulldogs in this one. I think Jefferson wins, goes on the road, and I think they win not easily, but I think handily. I don't think it's going to be as close as I think it's a couple scores.
Okay. All right. Next game up. This game that you will be at, Kyle, right? Is this the one that you're going to be at? Game 7. Garrison.
This is the red zone game of the week.
All right. So if Kyle's there, it's definitely going to be a big game. He's going to fly in on his KO copter at some point in the future. We're working on that.
I wish. Yeah, you're right, though, Brett. Talking about rivalry games, this is they're separated by 8 miles down Highway 59 down there in Shelby County, I believe.
Shelby County.
Yeah, so it should be a fun one. Last time I was at Timpson, we saw a great game between Westwood and Timpson. That's when Westwood kind of got put on my radar. But I've doubted this Timpson team in these past couple weeks. I didn't think that it was sustainable, them giving up as many points as they're giving and just depending on outscoring everyone. But it seems to be working. Seems to be working for them. So
fun fact, Kyle. They both lost to Shelbyville by 1 point.
Yeah. A little different scores, though.
Yeah, it is different.
That's kind of my point in this is we've seen Garrison not give up a lot of points, where we've seen Timpson give up. They've been hemorrhaging points, it seems like. So, but we've also seen Garrison play those tight games where they hold teams like Shelbyville that we see put up a ton of points to 21. So Timpson's going to have to find a way to win. Garrison's going to key on JJ and force somebody else on that Timpson offense to beat them. I'm not going. I already gave my pick away earlier. I'm not going against Timpson again because to be the man, you got to beat the man. But I don't.
It's a coin flip, man. I could go either way, and the way I'm going to go in this game is it's at home. I'm going to Timpson at home. Okay, so this is their senior night. JJ Garner, he's going to put their team on his back. He ain't letting them go out on a loss at that stadium. He's going to lead them to the win. So I'm going to go with Timpson in this one, but I could see Garrison going in and stealing this one and I wouldn't be one bit surprised. This district is just really tough, and it just like you look at and you go back and you look at Shelbyville, they're the most battle tested team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is strange. This district is really really close. These top four teams, they all play each other this week. We mentioned earlier, and it's going to shape out to be interesting. This game also, the Garrison Timpson game, will also be on NETSN this week. So it's one that if you're not going to a game, or even if you're at a game, keep your eye on this one. It's going to be a really good one. All right, next game up, another NETSN game, and we have a lot of these games this week on the Pick'em that are really good ones. Probably a battle for second and third. I don't know. We'll see how the game unfolds. We have the Center Rough Riders taking on the Athens Hornets. Looking at these teams, Center has been really impressive this year. Their only loss on the season was some team called Carthage. That's again, they lose to a lot of people, or Carthage beats a lot of people. So we got Athens coming in district play 2-1, same as Center. So this game is for second and third. I don't believe from any of the teams that I've seen below, they're the top three. You got Athens. They've got some wins over Kaufman, which is a step up in classification. You've got Palestine, Jacksonville. Those aren't really big wins. They played a close game to Henderson, which at the time we didn't know how good Henderson was, but it's actually not a terrible loss to Henderson. They're a good team. But you look at their schedule, Athens hasn't really beat anybody of substance to me. I'm not impressed with any of their wins. The Kaufman win, but that just doesn't really impress me. You look over here at Center. Of course, they beat Jacksonville, but they beat a North DeSoto team that's always good out of Louisiana. They beat a Dangerfield team, which we thought was down, but they're playing better now. I think they were probably playing better whenever Center played them. Madisonville's a really good team. They're able to hold off and win by 3. I think Center's played a little bit better schedule, and they're beating teams by a little more consistent. So I'm going to go with the Center Rough Riders to get the win on the road in Athens.
Yeah, no disrespect to Athens and Coach Harrell, but I haven't been impressed with Athens this year. I know their record is good, but you kind of talked about it with the teams that they beat, and they're beating who's on their schedule, which that's what you got to do. But we've said it that Carthage is kind of top tier in this district, and I think that next tier is Center by themselves, and then I think Athens is on that third tier by themselves. I could be wrong. I don't know if this one's very close Friday night. I think Center wins this one pretty easily.
Yeah, and it could set up, if things go the way it could go, if Center wins, it could set up a seeding game next week with Bullard and Athens, because Athens goes to Bullard to play them. So, and Bullard's sitting at 1-2. They've got Brownsboro this week. Sorry, Bears, but y'all are having a rough year. So it looks like they could come into that game, and that would be for third and fourth. Of course, I'm not sure that matters, because you either get Pleasant Grove or Gilmer. Is that the district set? Is that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, Merry Christmas, early.
Yeah.
Christmas. You get Pleasant Grove or Gilmer, but anyway, it is for district seating, so I think that's how that will fall. But yeah, Center, I think, takes this one easily. The next game on here is game 9. Chapel Hill travels to Henderson in a huge game in District 9 of 4A Division 1 here. And man, this one's tough for me. I can't pick against my Bulldogs. I know they're going to be down players. I feel like that they still were able to compete against a really good Pine Tree team, even with the loss in the backfield of Stewart. Don't know if he will play or not. We probably won't know up until game time. But even if he's not there, I feel like that Coach Reardon and company will game plan something out and knock off Henderson and get the win and lock in that district. I guess the playoff berth.
Yeah, I mean the big question mark in this one is what is the status of Ricky Stewart, and that matters. Like I think if he plays, it's a lot easier pick for me. But the uncertainty of it is what makes this difficult. And I really like what Henderson's doing this year. Um, but outside of that Kilgore game that they got that win, um, they've lost the big contest that they've had. I mean, they had that Pine Tree where they had a chance to make a statement and lost by 10 to Pine Tree. I'm with you too, Brett. Like nobody expected Ricky to get hurt on the first play of the game last week. They had, I don't, I find it hard to believe that Chapel Hill had game planned for a secondary game plan in case Ricky goes out. So they had to adjust on the fly, go in there at halftime and adjust. And now you give Coach Reardon and that staff a whole week to game plan for Ricky not being there. I think Malik's playing a lot better ball than when he got thrusted in there against Carthage earlier in the year. I think he's playing a lot better ball. The offense is moving better than they were. Defense travels. I'm telling you, I've been impressed with this Chapel Hill defense, and I'm going to put my faith in the Chapel Hill defense and say that they can hold Henderson and score just enough to beat the Henderson Lions. So give me the Chapel Hill Bulldogs.
And here's another thought, Kyle. I think if Stewart's available, I think he might suit out, but they might just leave him on the sideline and see how the game goes. Because they do have a bye week the next week, and then playoffs would start. So see how the game goes. Use him sparingly if they need him, and then try to rest him, even if he's available. I think, to me, if they can get the win and they don't have to use him a whole lot, then why risk it, right? Because you've got a week off next week. That first round game coming up, there may be a couple weeks before they play anybody the caliber that they may need him. So it may be that he only gets a few touches here and there until and gives him a lot of time to rest. So if I'm a coach, and I'm not, but I've coached some sports. I'm seeing how the game goes. If he's available, I'm just gonna let my backup play. I'm gonna see how the game flows. If I need to insert him in certain spots to get a big play, maybe I use him. But if I don't need to use him, I leave him on the sideline and let him get that extra couple weeks of rest.
I'm with you. My only argument would be, and I see why you're saying see how the game plays out, but you're not playing Palestine or Maybank. You're playing a good football team.
Right.
And so, but you also have to look at, and I'm glad I don't have to make this decision. That's why I'm glad I'm not a coach. But you also have to look at this kid's got a future. He's going to be playing football next year at Texas, at the University of Texas. Like that's a big time deal. Is it worth going out there, win or lose Friday night? Is it worth him going out there and potentially making whatever injury he has worse to where maybe it hampers his college career? Is that worth it for a game that even if you lose, you're probably still making the playoffs? Because you're going to have – if you lose, you got to depend on Lindell winning against Pine Tree and Henderson in the next 2 weeks to essentially knock you out. So – and it's a lot to think about.
I'm just saying if he was available, like they felt like he could go. If it's a questionable thing, I don't think you play him at all.
Here's the thing: if you leave a game at halftime to go get checked out, I don't know if you're playing the following week. Like if it's that serious where you have to leave to go, So I'm going into it with the mindset that he's not playing. But
I would too. If I was guessing, I would think.
But I'm with you. If there's even a hint that he can suit out and be a decoy, even go out on the field and just run. So they have to at least account for him. I think that helps. So, yeah, I mean, it depends on what Ricky's health is. But I still think I wouldn't have said this last year, but I think the strength of Chapel Hill's defense can get them through this game against Henderson.
Wow, the tables turned.
They had 2 turnovers. They had 2 picks Friday night. Like they balled out. They balled out. And even that offense without Ricky still ran for over 230 yards without Ricky really accounting for anything. So I think Pine Tree is going to be all right. Or excuse me, I think Chapel Hill is going to be all right.
Okay. Game 10, Kyle. I'm going to let you lead with this one. Your Lindale Eagles traveling to Longview to face Pine Tree in basically an elimination game. All the chips are on the line. Coach Crocker and company is making a trip over. You know they'll be ready. Can they go on the road and beat a Pine Tree team to stay in the hunt?
Can they? Yes. They can.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I think Lindale has the capability of doing that. Absolutely. Man. I hate being put in this position, but I also like being right. But I hope I'm wrong. I'm taking Pine Tree. I'm going against Lindale. I'm going against Lindale.
Oh, whoa.
I hope I'm wrong. I know. I'll never get that statue now.
The statue.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll never get that statue.
Statue.
Here, listen. I just saw this Pine Tree team give up 230 yards on the ground to a team that was without their starting quarterback and starting running back. I just saw this Pine Tree team earlier in the year beat a Van team by 6 points that Lindale also barely lost to. It's senior night for Pine Tree. Lindale's having to go on the road. The playoffs start this week for Lindale. This is a playoff game. You have to win to stay alive because any loss, I think, kind of eliminates you. So you have to win to stay alive. I believe in Coach Cochran as much as I believe in Joe Hendry. But man, Coach Bachman and those Pine Tree Pirates, that's a good squad over there in Pine Tree. That is a really good squad over in Pine Tree. I think this year Pine Tree is playing better football than Lindale is. So because of that, as much as I want my Eagles to win, I got to take the Pine Tree Pirates in this one.
Man, this is coming down to desperate times, coming with desperate measures. He's going against his team.
I don't like it, Brett.
That's like you going against the Eagles with that helmet behind you.
Well, that's easier. That team's easier to go against than my alma mater. I didn't graduate from Philadelphia. I have a blood, sweat, and tears that I put on that football field in Lindale. But
you gotta get some of those highlights back out so we can show everybody these KO highlights.
Just for my senior year, we played in Pine Tree. It was a non-district game. It was our third non-district game. We were 0-2 my senior year, and we needed a win to get off the schneid. We had to wait 2.5 hours. We had a 2.5-hour lightning delay, or like a 2-hour lightning delay. And we were already on the field warming up, so it had to be like 6:45 or close to it for a 7:30 kick. And then lightning struck, and we didn't kick off till about 9:45 that night. And it was still kind of raining, wet field. It was miserable. But we came out of there with a 29-15 win over Pine Tree that night. Big win, got us off the schneid en route to an eventual district championship my senior year. So I really hope Lindale can pull this off, but Pine Tree is a good football team.
They are a good football team. They just beat my team last week, Kyle. So as much as I'd like them to lose just because they beat us last week, the Pick'em champs got to go with who he thinks going to win. I can't use the Chapel Hill excuse on this one. I learned my lesson. I'm going with Pine Tree in this game, and I think they kind of lock up. If they hadn't already, I think this kind of cements them as the second best team in this district. And so I think Pine Tree gets a win. I think if Lindale wins, I think it makes the race really interesting. So for drama aspects for a show, I'd love to see Lindale win because it's going to make everything crazy for next week. But I think Pine Tree, man, they went through a battle last week, and I think if Lindale, you talked about the running game. Chapel Hill put up all those yards. Lindale likes to pound the football, so if they can establish that and play a little ball control and keep Pine Tree off the field, they've got a chance.
But that's what Pine Tree does really well too. Is they keep your offense off the field. They have long, methodical drives that eat up clock, and so in turn, that makes each possession that you get on offense that much more precious because you don't know how many possessions you're actually going to get. So, yeah, I like this Pine Tree team a lot. And Lindale's down a little bit this year, and so I want to pick Lindale, but I don't think this is the year Lindale gets Pine Tree. I think this is Pine Tree's year to get Lindale. I hate saying that.
Well, yeah, I know it's got to be tough for you. I can't believe you actually went against your team there. I thought you were going to go with the Lindale Eagles.
A couple weeks ago, I went with my team against Kilgore when I knew good and well.
You learn your lesson.
I can't do that again.
Just to kind of go, we talked about earlier in the show at the beginning. We have a lot of stuff going on in NETSN this week. We got volleyball action on Tuesday night. Larry will be in center as center opens their new event center. Kyle, they got a new
center with a new event
gymnasium. Center? Yeah, and so they're going to have their first game there. It'll be on NETSN Tuesday night as they will host one of another NETSN schools. The Rusk Eagles will be traveling over. And so that'll be on Tuesday night. We talked about it, the Halloween spooky game of the week. We've got Shelbyville and Joaquin, which should be a really good game on Thursday. Larry will be there as well. And then, of course, our Friday night slate. We got 5 games this Friday night. 5-game slate. 5 time. Yeah, 5 games. We've got the Overton Mustangs traveling to Mount Enterprise. Jaron will be traveling down there to have the call on that game. We've got a game where I'll be over in Brook Hill as they look to bounce back from the loss last week to take on a district opponent, Dallas Bishop Dunn. So that's a big game. Brook Hill trying to still make the playoff push. They've got to win these last 2 games to get in. So be a winner go home scenario for them. Center will be traveling over to Athens. The counselor Stephen Shires and Chris Wallington and that group will have that game. We have Garrison and Timpson. Larry again will be traveling over to Timpson. We might have a special camera guy in that game. I think your dad's going to be over on camera, and you'll be there as well. So that should be a really fun game there. And then Keith will be over in Rusk as the Carthage Bulldogs come to town to a struggling Rusk team, which looks to try to at least put up some points against the Carthage Bulldogs. It's going to be a struggle for Coach Sitton. They've just had a really rough season, and but that game will also be on NETSN. So those are our football matchups. And then Saturday afternoon, I will be over in Harrington Gymnasium for some round ball as we open the round ball season here on NETSN as the defending state champs, the Martinsville Lady Mustangs, come to town to take on a Brook Hill Lady Guard team with, get this, you remember how many players they had on the roster last year?
Yeah.
Colin?
It was like, what, 7 to 10? Not that many.
About 7 or 8. They have 13 players on the roster this year. So Coach Hubbard is going to have to figure out his rotation. And so I'm excited. They've got some new faces. Everybody's returning. We got high, like, Final Four aspirations over there in Brook Hill Lady Guard land. So excited to get out there and cover them. Not sure who's going with me yet, but I will be there and ready to go on, I guess, on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be a good one. And we've got some more Brook Hill games that'll go up on the schedule here pretty soon as well.
I'll be you'll have at least one viewer because I'll be watching that game Saturday while I'm sitting up at work. So I will tune in for that one. Okay. It's football season, but I'll tune in for that basketball game.
It's going to be some nice hoops action. I'm excited. We're trying to get to the end of the hoop schedule here pretty soon. Kyle's going to be with me. We'll have Corey, that guy. Maybe he'll show up, Corey. Hopefully he'll be around for some hoops. I'm excited to get him back on the mic with us. And we'll also have a couple of new faces on basketball. So we've got a lot of things planned here coming up. And then, of course, playoff football will be coming up as well. So, again, just lots of things on NETSN. If you like our videos, it really helps us out to like our video. Hey, if you haven't caught our viral call on the Man Scott catch yet, it's going. We have, like, I think last time I checked, there was like 13,000 views on YouTube. I posted on YouTube 13,000 views on that thing so far. So Make sure if you subscribe, you get notified of everything that we do. And there's an app, Kyle, and let them know how much does that thing cost. It's gotta cost a little bit of
Listen,
money, right?
it's not going to cost you an arm, not quite a leg. It's the free 99.
I like that. And we have scores and the games are there and pick'ems and everything else. So go check it out. It's free. Share it with all your friends. The more people we can get on the app, the easier it is to find scores and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you go check that out. So that's gonna pretty much do it. Kyle, is there anything else you want to add? We got lots going on this week and lots of good games. I mean, these last 2 weeks of the season are going to be some good ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, kind of ironing out the playoff picture for all these districts, and these next 2 weeks are going to do it. We got a lot of, as we were talking about it, we got a lot of district championships on the line this week, in some big matchups and a lot of seeding games, and then a lot of games that happen this week are going to directly correlate to how big the games are next week is too. So I'm looking forward to it, man. It's the best time of the year.
It is, and that's going to do it for tonight's episode of Beast from the East. We're going to be back next week. We'll have some scenarios and playoff matchups and all kinds of stuff going. So good luck in your pick'ems. Make sure you get them in. There is a Thursday game, so make sure you get that pick in on before Thursday kicks off. This pick'em may be the toughest one yet. A lot of things on the line this week.
10-0.
Week 10.
10-0.
10-0 for Kyle. He's calling it right now. 10-0 for KO, Mr. Red Zone. Mr. NETSN Brett Swinney signing off for this week's episode. Good luck in your pick'ems and have a great rest of your week and weekend. Make sure you stay tuned to NETSN for everything going on. Have a great week and weekend. Good night, everybody.
Lean on your brother tonight. Let your brother count on you every play tonight. Okay? And then come out and have fun. The gates are locked. Ain't nobody getting out now. They can't run. The gates are locked. Let's bring the fight to them, guys. Yes, sir. Hey, brother.
It's way better than last year. I was having to update all the scores every night. But this year I've got more guys that do that. It's a matter of who's been out there. Some people still beat
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed